George, we've got this great new warehouse to work out of for Life Lessons TV. So I want to show you around a little bit before I introduce you to my next special guest for Life Lessons episode number 15. So this is a mate of mine's warehouse. It's actually like a furniture warehouse. So it's pretty cool because for today's interview, what I want to do is set up over here, right? So we've got the use of all this cool furniture, and I'm going to throw together like a lounge, a table, and a few little cushions and things like that, and have our own little makeshift studio so I can do this every time. But today's episode is with Michelle Cashman, and she is a life coach, she is an author, she is a podcast host, but today's episode is just going to absolutely rock you. It's one of those real Life Lessons TV episodes that brings you to that sort of rock bottom level and giving you an idea of how someone transforms their life, going from the depths of despair to a thriving, successful business. And I just can't wait to share with you this story. It gets a little bit emotional, I must warn you, but I want to just encourage you to stick with it because this is one episode I do not want you to miss. So Life Lessons TV, look, it's going to be sort of, I think, a little bit edgy. I think it's going to be a little bit off the cuff. I'm letting you know now that once I get excited about a topic, I might swear a little bit. I might let a couple of curses go. So it's one of those things where I think I just want things to be kind of real. Hey guys, Adrian D'Amico here. Welcome to Life Lessons episode 16. Today I'm joined by a special guest, Michelle Cashman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. So just to fill everyone in, we've been friends on Facebook for a little while, so we can kind of say anything to each other now that we're friends on Facebook, which is great. And the thing that I've noticed online about you is that we've got a lot in common. We do. And we've just been discussing about life growing up in Wollongong and music and all that kind of stuff, and there's sort of 2 degrees of separation going on here, so which is it's just life, isn't it? The world's such a small place. So let's introduce you to the community, to everyone that's tuning into the show, about who you are and what you do, because like I said, we've got some common traits. We're both into music, we're both coaching, we're both doing podcasts and shows like this, so tell us all about that.
Okay, so, where do I start? Do I start at the beginning, or right now?
Yeah, sort of give us I want to personally get to know you as the journey into Michelle now. So if you can just sort of take us to, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
The speed through, shall we? Okay.
Yes, let's do that.
So I was a working musician, and I did that for a decade or so, and I left home when I was 15 and went through all of this ridiculous drama, and so that was a really, really great fuel for my songwriting. So I just wrote all of these songs about how crap my life was and all the crap that I went through.
Right.
And I found myself, as I invested in myself and I learnt and I read and I got educated, that my life began to change and I began to change, and all of those songs didn't resonate with me anymore. And I was going into venues and singing these songs about how crap my life was, and people would come up to me and be like, that's my song, like, you don't know, like, but this is what's happened to me, and they're relating to that. Yeah, they would tell me this, they'd tell me their stories.
Gotcha.
And I'd be like, wow, if that is your song, what are you doing? Because you can't stay there. That space is really unhealthy, and unless you do something, it's going to kill you.
Right.
And
this is what you're saying to them.
Yeah. So this is what I'm saying to people at the end of my gigs.
Right. Little counselling session after the gig.
I'm like, no, don't. You just need to get some help. You need, Cool. So I was already starting to.
Yes.
And so then after a little while, I started to do my concerts where I would sing all these songs about how crap my life was, and introduce these stories about what I did. So
Right.
it might have been that my heart was broken because someone was a lying, cheating mongrel or something.
Yeah.
And I would say that in amongst that space, I learnt some lessons, and I had to learn about how to have really effective boundaries, like how to keep
Right.
manipulative, awful people out of your personal
Gotcha.
space. You know,
So you're giving
things
some
like
context
that.
to the song.
Yeah, so
Right.
giving some context, but also some things that people could take away. So
Some life lessons.
life lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if that's where you're at, then this is something that you might want to look at. And eventually, I found that I was really struggling to push the music because I was way more invested in helping people who were in that space. So I started a podcast, which was September last year, and it's been weekly.
Awesome.
Apart from some school holidays and
Yeah, of
illnesses in amongst.
Yeah,
but,
so tell us what that is and where we can find it.
So that podcast is called Transformational Personal Growth.
Yep.
And it's on iTunes and
Awesome.
and the website as well. If you're an Android person or whatever, it's transformationalpersonalgrowth.com.
Yes.
You're right. Okay,
So I'll get George to link that up.
yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Okay, so getting into the podcast, you started doing that, and what happened from there? Did that start to take off?
Yeah, well, so I was getting a really good response with the podcast. I was getting these emails from people saying, thank you so much. Having someone like you who's telling your own life stories and your own personal experience makes me feel like I'm not alone. But the good thing was that I was already doing that through music, like that whole not alone thing. But rather than just connecting with them and making them feel that they weren't alone, I was giving them something to do in that space that can help move out of that space.
Yeah.
So finding that was really, really helpful, and just getting that feedback from people saying, this is really helpful for me. That's so what I needed to hear. I'm starting to implement change. And going, this is it.
Right.
It doesn't get better than that.
Yes.
Like the only time that I would say that my music career gave me that kind of fulfillment was when I was playing at some RSL and a lady came up and said, can you play So Far From Perfect? And I'm like, yes, I can. That's my song.
She
Of
knew
course,
your stuff.
of course I can. Yeah, no worries. So I played her the
Awesome.
song, but then in my next break, she just said, I wanted to let you know that your CD helped me make it through Christmas.
Oh, amazing.
And I just went, wow.
Yeah, so you
And
knew there was
that's
something
that's a
more
highlight.
than
and
this,
over
yeah?
a decade
Yes.
of music, and that was my highlight.
Gotcha.
So moving into this sort of, I guess, educating and inspiring space is just so much more rewarding than music ever has been. Even though music's still a part of my life,
Gotcha.
it's just not my.
It's another form of expression, I guess, and I think that obviously these are little signs that have been tapping you on the shoulder along the way. Okay, so now if you want to go forward a little bit, right? So you're doing the podcast, things are taking off. You've got your transformational coach. People are coming to you, approaching you for additional services. That's sort of how it went.
Yeah.
How did you get into the coaching side of things?
So I decided there was lots of different things. I've always been really passionate about learning, and so I read like billions of books, and just then I assimilate that knowledge and be like, oh, guess what I learned today, and I share that with people.
Yeah.
But I wanted a more formal sort of education to sort of give myself a little bit of credibility for what I was talking about, and I enrolled twice to do psychology.
Yeah.
And I was like, I so don't want to be a psychologist.
Okay.
So what am I going to do?
Right.
Like, why am I doing this? What is it for? And and realizing that a lot of the study behind psychology was boring. So what do I do?
a lot to it.
Yeah. And I'm still, that might come alongside eventually, probably by correspondence, so that I don't have to keep.
Yeah, that's right.
But life coaching, because I kept sitting down with myself and saying, okay, so what do you want to do? And why do you want to do that? And what do you want to do that for?
Yeah, sure.
And asking myself all these questions.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to inspire people to live their life to a greater capacity. I want to help people to achieve their goals and show them ways to do that.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, that's a life coach. What's wrong with you? Why are you not studying life? Oh, okay. So I
Right.
kind of coached myself into
Into it.
yeah. So
But
I
that's the
started
journey
studying.
of self-discovery, right? So I mean, I think that it's if you're anything like me, you would have these little signs that come along and kind of go like, that's sort of the direction you should go in. But then you start to second guess yourself. You start to think, well, I don't know if it's, what if it doesn't work out? It's not who I am. I've got to create almost like a whole new identity.
Yeah.
But then you have the people like that lady come up and say, your CD changed me, and I listened to the podcast and I made it through Christmas, like all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, in your opinion then, because to me it's an easy sell. So I think along my life I've always had coaches. So when I was in fitness, I would have a coach that would say, this is what to do, how to eat, how to train, how to prepare for competitions. When I was in real estate, I'd be like seeking out answers.
Yeah.
What do I do? What scripts? What dialogues? What's the correct marketing procedures? And I've always had coaches. So to me, coaching is just a natural thing. And when I talk to people about transformation, about business growth, about online marketing, it's kind of like, well, you don't know everything, right? So you need to learn, you need to be inspired, you need to seek some answers out. And I don't think a lot of people sort of give enough credit to the fact that there are so many people out there that can give them more answers than what they already know to get them to the next level.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to ask you, so what do you think holds people back? Like, in this journey of discovery, I guess it's sort of two parts, right? You're utilizing your own self experiences, life experiences, and then you're discovering ways that you've kind of overcome them. And then you're turning that into a teachable snippet, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So why is it that you find people are getting held back in their lives? Like what is holding people back in your opinion?
Look, I think there's different things for different people, but one of the underlying themes is they don't believe it's possible for them.
Mm-hmm.
And whether that's because they're not exposed to people around them. Like if you're in a family who everyone's highly motivated and they all get coaching, then you go get coaching, and it's kind of that natural progression that you learn off others and you grow.
Yep.
But if you come from a family who kind of don't follow their dreams, or they just sort of go to work and do what they do and come home and there's no real passion and fuel, it's hard to look at that and find that normal. It's kind of outside of your box. So it's...
Well, that becomes normal, so coaching is not.
So, but living your dream becomes something that only other people can do. You've got to have had, like I remember for me, I used to think that it was, anybody who had any success was already had money to begin with.
Yes.
Or had people around them that supported them. They must have had a good upbringing. Their mum and dad must have paid for that, or whatever.
Gotcha.
And I used that as my excuse because I didn't have parents that would help me like that, and I didn't have anybody around me that kind of knew what they were doing with music or any sort of industry that I've wanted to be in.
Yeah.
So I've had to kind of actively seek those out. But I think it's having role models that might not be part of your circle of influence and gravitating towards that and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And if you don't believe it's possible, then people won't bother because it's like, well, that's not available to me. But it is. It's available to you.
Absolutely. Okay, so for you though, what was holding you back? So I guess from an outside looking in, if people see that, like when I see your Facebook page, and it's the same for me, when people see this is who I am today, this is who I'm interviewing today, I'm coaching, I'm training, and they see mostly the wins, and that's something that I think social media plays a big part in showing everyone's highlight reel.
Yeah.
Okay, and we tend to compare our chapter 1s with someone else's chapter 5s, chapter 10s, chapter 20s, right? So they've gone through this whole process. So for you though, I want to find out what was holding you back in the past. So not Michelle today, the inspirational coach and podcast host and things like that. If we go back, what was holding you back? What were the things that you found were limiting yourself with the same sort of similar beliefs?
Oh, look, I had a bucket. I had a bucket full of things that were holding me back. Yeah. My biggest one was I did not believe that I could do what I wanted with my life. I thought that was unavailable to me. I thought people like me don't succeed. They don't do anything with their life. Because I grew up.
Well, like you is like what?
Well, I grew up in housing commission.
Gotcha.
And I didn't have a dad, and my mum didn't work. We never had any money. I remember washing cars at 8 because, I wanted to have enough money to be able to buy my family Christmas presents, things like that. So, but I just didn't think that everyone around me, all the grown-ups, none of them were happy. None of them were living lives that I wanted to aspire to.
Gotcha.
So I didn't have those positive role models. And I was like, oh, well, even if I try, this is what I'm going to get.
Gotcha.
And I was like, well, why try? Why bother?
Why bother?
And then I fell into things like addiction because, if life's so hard and it sucks, and no matter how hard you try, it's going to suck anyway. You may as well get wasted.
Right.
So I fell into like a lot of drinking, and then of course alcohol being a depressant, it just snowballed, and life just turned to shit. And I'd do stupid things when I was drinking, and then that would just give me more fuel to hate myself. So why invest or why look after me when I'm not worth looking after? And that was my headspace.
So that languaging there in terms of like I'm not worth looking after, right? So would that be a key thing that you would find in a lot of people's outlook is self-worth?
Yeah.
And I think as a woman too, like I know I don't want to be biased towards women, but I think they're the harshest critics on themselves. But I talk to a lot of guys, and we kind of beat ourselves up in a different way. Yeah. So do you think that lack of self-worth is the underlying thing?
Well, if you don't believe that you're worth looking after, you won't look after yourself. If you don't look after yourself, then you're not going to be able to achieve the things you would if you did look after yourself. So it becomes that perpetuating cycle.
Yeah.
Whereas if you treat yourself as if you are worth looking after, even if you don't believe it.
Gotcha.
Like, you don't have to believe it to begin with, but you just start to treat yourself as if you are worth looking after, and then after a little while, you start to think, I am okay. I'm going to treat myself well, so I'm going to love me. And then you kind of invest and grow yourself. It's kind of like a little seedling. I always think of these little seedlings in the garden, you know. We look at them, they're coming up, they're just, we're comparing them to these massive trees, and we're like, this sucks, and they die.
Yes.
But in reality, you go, look at that. Look at those little valuable things that you have in you, that, you're kind, and
let's nurture it.
You water that, and you put some fertilizer on it, make sure it gets some sunlight, and grow that. And then all of a sudden you go, oh look at this. I can do this. I'm growing. I'm growing. And, and it just keeps going.
So for you, when you were in that period of, let's call it self-destruction, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to frame that.
Yeah, and I've been there, so I get it. What was there one moment that kind of made you change, or do you think, like you just articulated then, was it a series of things that just eventually pulled you out of the shit, where you stopped beating yourself up, you stopped torturing yourself, you stopped intoxicating yourself and treating yourself so bad, inwardly and outwardly, right? So was there one moment, or do you think it was a series of moments?
There were several moments, but there was one really, really poignant. Like, I had my son when I was 23, and one of those things when you have a really tough childhood is you kind of want to do a better job. You want to make sure that kid never goes through what you went through and all that kind of stuff. And so I had it in my mind that I needed to be a fantastic mum. And when I had postnatal depression, I was like, I'm failing at the one thing that is meant to be natural. Like, it's supposed to be natural.
Sure.
Like, I may as well walk around with a big F on my forehead because I'm a failure. And I remember my son was in his cot up the end of the hallway, and I was sitting at the kitchen table with a knife in my hand, contemplating ending it all. And when people say that suicide is a selfish thing or whatever, I remember sitting there and just thinking, he would be better off without me.
No way.
So if I just end this, then maybe someone nice will come along.
And save him. Wow.
And it's so funny because I think now about how far I've come and all the things that I want to teach him and leave him with. I mean, it's a big part of why I do what I do, because I figure if I drop dead, who's going to teach him this?
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like such a 360, because I don't want to leave him with anyone in case they miss some of these things that I have learnt along that journey. But in that moment, I hated myself because it was like, I can't even do this. I can't even do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, but it was in that moment that I knew that if I didn't get help, I was going to die. And I couldn't kill myself, and I couldn't stay alive the way that I was. So I had to get some help. And so, you know, and I think, why wait? We all wait so long before we get help. Why wait till you're at the rock bottom, you know? Even if you're just sort of cruising along, get some help and
Shit, I didn't expect to be crying on this episode. Okay.
Sorry.
I've got 3 boys, so when you say things like that, it really hits home.
Yeah.
Look, I did a show, I think it was episode 2 for Life Lessons, and it was called The Turning Point. And for me, I mean, I can recount moments that were quite dark and depressing and all that kind of stuff, but I was more talking from a business standpoint in terms of changing careers. But one of the things I do recall saying is that, like, why wait for shit to happen? Why wait for your whole fucking world to come crumbling down before you make a decision? And I think that sometimes it just takes that level of, you know, the depths of despair to make people change. Because otherwise, when things are going okay, we settle into the comfort of it's all right, and then we tell ourselves, well, things aren't so bad, and then that's just a reason to kind of stay the same and not go, well, yeah, things aren't so bad, but I could improve, or I do want something else in my life, and then therefore I should go and maybe try that little bit extra, or seek out that coach, or read that extra book, or listen to that podcast, or whatever it may be. So I totally agree with you. I mean, I think far too many people do one or two things. They capitulate and that's it, and they go through with what you couldn't go through with, thank God. And or they just give up on life. I guess there's 3 things. Or then they come out fighting.
Yeah.
And they make that change, which is what you did.
Yep.
Okay, so shit, you rocked me with that thing, with that comment.
What I think with that whole thing is that a lot of the time, people think when they're just sort of going along, and even if it's just sort of struggling, but they're not willing to get some help, half of that is they think there is no other way than the way that they're going. Whereas when you hit rock bottom, it's like, well, there has to be another way.
Yeah.
Because I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's when they seek another way. Whereas you don't have to wait until that, you know, there is always another way.
Sure.
And you look around you and you find people who are really passionate and excelling in life, and you go, what did they do?
Yeah.
What did they do that I'm not
Success leaves
doing?
clues.
Yeah, success leaves clues. It's so true.
Yeah, 100%. Everyone, if you ever listen to Tony Robbins, then you will know that's Tony Robbins' quote. All right, so that's a pretty pivotal moment in your life, and then I guess there was sort of moments after that kind of made you start being a better mum, and then we can sort of recount back to the music and then the podcast and all that kind of stuff. So let's speak present moment. What are you doing today with your life? How are you serving people? Where do people find you? Tell us all about that.
So mainly people find me online at either michellcashman.com or transformationalpersonalgrowth.com.
Yeah.
And I currently spend my time either coaching, training, as in training, like my own training. So I'm still going through coaching training and improving those skills.
And learning,
and then I've got the podcast, and then I'm also launching in the next couple of months a video series as well.
Cool.
Called 10-Minute Tips for Living Well.
I love it.
I'm excited about that. I've actually had this video series in my head for such a long time, but it was, you know, when you have those goals and you're like, oh, it's so big, and then it's too big.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've had that like just
Brewing.
on the burner, for ages, and
it's all timing.
Yeah, it is. It's timing, and it's developing your skill set. Like, even though, it is. It's timing and skill set. So that's launching soon, and I'm also launching an online course and just growing my business, and I serve people by basically sharing with all of this crap that I went through. It's like wherever you are at, someone has been there. Whatever you are going through, someone has been there and they've survived.
Yes.
And there's other people that have been where you are and have excelled. So I feel like my job is to build people and to, not to build people, but help them to build themselves. So wherever they're at and whatever they've gone through, knowing that there are ways to move forward and to, I guess, break the cycle if they're in a cycle of depression or yuck. You know, when life just gets so yuck and they get stuck. So the course that I'm working on is called Unfunk Yourself.
Yeah, I like it.
So I'm actually going to be really careful when I say the words in case I stuff them up.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
So it's about unfunk yourself.
Yeah.
And it's that idea that, you know, if you are stuck in that sort of then let's build some systems and strategies to stop you consistently falling back into it.
Yeah, gotcha. It's so funny, you know, like yesterday I was on Snapchat and the whole theme was getting out of your own way, right? Because most people, the reason for most of their or not succeeding is because they're constantly in their head beating themselves up, and if they just would get out of their own way, the world would kind of like say, well, here's the path, you know? So that's amazing. All right. The show's called Life Lessons, as you know, right? So can you give us a life lesson? What would be one thing that you would say that would be your take home, your one key life lesson for us today?
One key life lesson for today. I think wherever you are, don't stay there, because it doesn't matter if you are in a funk or you're on top of the world. We need to keep growing. Or that place that, you know, where you are feeling great, if you stay there long enough, you will stagnate and you will rot, and that will become your new stuck. So it's important to keep investing in yourself, and whether you believe that you're worth investing in or not, you are alive, you are breathing, and we are kind of like flowers. You know, if we are growing, then we're really living. And if we're just not growing, then we will stagnate and rot and die. Yeah. So it's important to grow and invest, and really, really just invest in yourself and keep getting that fertilizer and sunshine and make sure it happens.
Perfect. Michelle, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been amazing to talk to you. Thanks for making me cry.
You're welcome.
First episode I've actually cried on. I thought it'd happen sooner than this, so thanks for that.
That's okay.
Thank you so much, and looking forward to watching your journey grow from here.
Thank you.
There you go, guys. Adrian here. This is Life Lessons episode number 16. If you like this show, then please share it with all your friends. Feel free to subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. So Life Lessons TV, look, it's going to be sort of, I think, a little bit edgy. I think it's going to be a little bit off the cuff. I'm letting you know now that once I get excited about a topic, I might swear a little bit. I might let a couple of curses go. So it's one of those things where I think I just want things to be kind of real.